Mayor Patrick Brown and members of the Ontario's big city mayors, they held a meeting today, a mayor's caucus, and they discussed the priorities in front of the cities, in front of the mayors. Those priorities include impact of tariffs on municipalities, how to fix the economy, and the local economies, they are into bad shape, how to fix that, as well as housing infrastructure and the homelessness, mental health and addiction crisis. These all issues are discussed in the caucus meeting of the mayors, Mayor Patrick Brown along with the Ontario's big mayor city caucus. So let's see what they have to say on this.
To talk to my friend Nitin Chopra about why we continue to campaign for public safety reform. I'm concerned about the safety of Canadians in big cities. We're seeing more and more transnational crime, and it's why at this Ontario Big City Mayors meeting, I raised concerns I have over not just border security, where we have a porous border, concerns with our ports, but also the fact we need more resources in our judicial system, more federal judges, more provincial judges, more crowns. I'm tired of seeing court cases thrown out because of a lack of resources. That's a court case thrown out, a serious crime thrown out is justice denied. And we're going to continue this advocacy. For me, public safety is one of my top concerns, and I do whatever I can to make sure Bramptonians can feel safe.
ਸਿਟੀ ਆਫ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਅੱਜ ਹੋਸਟ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਬਿਗ ਸਿਟੀ ਮੇਅਰਸ ਦੇ ਕਾਕਸ ਦੀ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ, ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਿਊਨਿਸਪੈਲਿਟੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਦਰਪੇਸ਼ ਆ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਦਿੱਕਤਾਂ, ਫੰਡਿੰਗ ਸ਼ਾਰਟੇਜ ਔਰ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਪਰੂਵ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ, ਪਬਲਿਕ ਸੇਫਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਸਟਰੈਂਥਨ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ, ਔਰ ਟਰੰਪ ਟੈਰਿਫ ਦੇ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਜੌਬਸ ਦਾ ਇਕਨੋਮੀ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਖਤਰਾ ਬਾਦਲ ਮੰਡਰਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੈਂਡਲ ਕਰਨਾ, ਉਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ। ਡੈਫੀਨੇਟਲੀ ਸਿੰਸ ਸਿਟੀ ਆਫ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਸਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਤੇ ਮੇਅਰ ਪੈਟਰਿਕ ਬਰਾਊਨ ਦੀ ਲੀਡਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਦੇ ਹੇਠਾਂ ਅੱਜ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਫੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਅਹਿਮ ਫੈਸਲੇ ਲਿੱਤੇ ਗਏ। ਅਸੀਂ ਉਮੀਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਫੈਸਲੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਬਣਦੀਆਂ ਸਰਕਾਰਾਂ, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਔਰ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਫੰਡਿੰਗ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤ ਹੈ ਮਿਊਨਿਸਪੈਲਿਟੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਸਹੀ ਸੁਖਾਵੇਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਲਈ, ਉਹ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਮੁਹੱਈਆ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾਣਗੇ।
Good morning, this is Nitin Chopra. Question for Mayor Brown. Do you have any concerns at city level, region level, provincial level, the top priorities concerns, which are the hurdles? Because we need to fix the issues of the city. You rightly mentioned police funding is one of the issue, the crime we have seen. What are the main hurdles? Which are the hurdles? Because we need the solutions. If federal, provincial or city, they can't come on a single table and resolve the issues. Being a leader, what do you think, like what should be done so that every time we see roller coaster things and we need solutions and you are a strong leader, what are the hurdles and how to overcome those?
So I'll start to answer that from an OBCM perspective and turn it to Patrick Brown. And if we could keep comments on issues that are within OBCM's wheelhouse, that's what we're here for. And I'm sure Patrick will stay later if there's additional city specific, but that is within something that Ontario Big City Mayors has looked at. We did at one of our very recent meetings pass a motion asking for additional resources for policing in municipalities because our policing costs across the sector are skyrocketing. I can tell you in Burlington, it was Halton Region Police budget went up by 14%. Patrick can certainly speak to the Peel budget, which was even higher than that. The government did commit some resources to RCMP assistance, but most of our municipalities have regional or local police services, and we need help really in keeping with what Patrick said just now around we're doing a lot of the work to control borders and things that come across borders through our local police services. So we need help and funding from other levels of government. We have already made that request as a caucus for those resources, and I'll turn it now to Patrick.
I just say, Nitin, this is why you have organizations like OBCM. It makes that advocacy more muscular. If one city is speaking out, it may not get heard. When you have a collection of cities all with similar concerns, I do believe it makes headway with provincial and federal governments. The issues that OBCM have pushed have been heard. You know, I look at the example of bail reform, which was raised by OBCM. We see the new government saying they're going to address the concerns around bail reform. And so I know there's a lot of work to do, and it's not just one level of government. It's never about pointing fingers. It's saying, how do we find solutions? And we all play a role in finding those solutions. And I'm optimistic that there's the right dialogue happening right now, that we can make progress.
Is corruption an issue or a concern for any of the mayors in any of the city? Anyone can answer, because residents want the Planning Act the residents want the Planning Act because it's at 4 levels: federal, provincial, municipal, and regional. And when these 4 levels are involved in the plannings, so we need to reform the Planning Act. And is the corruption at 4 levels, is that because when we heard from residents, they make this concern in front of us. Is that a concern for the mayors, that at these levels is the corruption there? Because we need pipes in the grounds, we need build fast. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I think all of us would be concerned of any corruption happening anywhere, and we would want to make sure that the police are involved. So please notify the appropriate authorities if you know that that is happening. We believe that it's really important to work with our partners at the federal and provincial and regional levels to get good things done for our community. So that is definitely what our focus is. Thank you. Thank you for joining us here in the beautiful and historic city of Brampton. I'm Marianne Mead Ward, Mayor of the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus, Burlington Mayor, and Chair of the Big City Mayors Caucus. And I want to acknowledge who has joined me here today. Mayor Patrick Brown, of course, of Brampton, is the host for our meeting that concluded earlier today. I want to thank Patrick and his team for giving us a huge welcome, treating us very well today. We also have Jan Liggett, Mayor of Cambridge, and Barry Verbanovic from Mayor of Kitchener. So as you may know, the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus is a nonprofit, consensus-based organization comprised of the mayors of the 29 largest cities in Ontario, over 100,000. Collectively, we represent 70% of Ontario's population, and nationally, we represent 30% of the country's population. So we provide a voice for big city mayors in policy debates that impact Ontario cities. We work very closely with our partners at the provincial and federal levels to develop policy that will beneficially impact our residents and our communities. So today we had a meeting of our caucus to talk about a number of things. And the first one that I want to mention is around the need for infrastructure funding from the federal government. So we heard Prime Minister Carney at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities conference in Ottawa very recently talk about development charges and talk about the potential to cut development charges while also keeping us whole. We will absolutely hold him to that part, and we spell whole W-H-O-L-E, not H-O-L-E. Development charges are critically required to fund the very infrastructure needed to build housing in our communities, to build roads, transit, community centers. So if it's not through development charges, there need to be an avenue to provide that critical infrastructure. So we did approve a motion today at our caucus asking the government to commit to working with our organization in the development of any new housing legislation that will impact the collection of development charges. And just for some context around municipal funding, we invest nearly $65 billion in public services and infrastructure every year. We own 50% of capital infrastructure. The provincial government only owns about 41%, and the federal government a mere 2%. But we only receive 9 cents on the dollar in Ontario, while the federal and provincial governments receive 44 and 47% respectively. We cannot continue to run our cities and our municipalities, serve the collective residents that all of us are responsible for without a change in how municipalities are funded. So we have, on many occasions, previously joined voices with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, to ask for a new deal for cities, a new funding structure that would more fairly represent the work that we carry out on behalf of federal and provincial governments, the infrastructure and quality of life that we deliver for our residents. So that continues to be an ask that we will put to the 2 levels of government. We can't talk about housing, of course, without also talking about homelessness, mental health, and addictions crisis that is unfolding in our streets and cities across this country and in our municipalities, big and small. In 2024, more than 80,000 people in Ontario experienced homelessness. That is a 25% increase since 2022, although the problem has been growing for decades over successive governments. And without significant intervention, and this is research that was done independently through the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, homelessness could more than triple by 2035, leaving almost 300,000 people without stable housing. In 2024, AMO reported that municipalities covered 51.5% of the $4.1 billion that is being spent on housing and homelessness programs in Ontario, even though this is not our core mandate. This includes providing support for services, homelessness prevention, emergency shelters, transitional housing, supportive housing, and affordable housing. And we've stepped up to do this because it's unacceptable to leave our residents suffering. But we do need help from the federal and provincial governments. And there's more information about our specific asks on solvethecrisis.ca, the campaign that we launched last year at AMO and continues to be ever so relevant in all of our municipalities across Ontario. Additionally, at our meeting, we passed a motion requesting the provincial government to implement the Blue Ribbon Panel's report and recommendations on the post-secondary sector, specifically to advance its review of the post-secondary funding model, increase operating grant levels, and ensure institutions have the resources necessary to continue to deliver high-quality education and research that is required to enhance Ontario's competitiveness, economic prosperity, and effectively transition to the one Canadian economy. We also discussed electricity as a core infrastructure needed to build complete communities and housing. We will be doing some more work on that between now and August, which is our next meeting in conjunction with AMO in Ottawa. And we had quite a robust discussion around the need for support for municipalities around public safety. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our host, Patrick Brown, to say a few words and give more information around our public safety piece.
Proficiently say thank you to Mayor Mead Ward for her leadership in advocating for Ontario cities. OBCM is a very important organization that advocates what we see on the front lines in urban Ontario. And there are challenges and opportunities, and having an organization where we can share that data is so important. Another area that we got into today that I think is very important is concerns around public safety. The reality is, to get this right, to make everyone know they're safe, to make sure that they are safe, every level of government has a role. And increasingly, the local government has been stepping up well beyond their capacity to make sure that residents are safe. But we've looked at areas that we're going to do some more advocacy on in the coming months. In terms of a provincial level, our courts are stretched thin. We need more crowns. We need more judges. It is a tragedy when we see a court case thrown out because the judicial system lacks adequate resources. And I think that advocacy point is very important with our provincial colleagues. On a federal level, there's a lot of discussion about border security, about the concerns of drugs and guns that get into our country. And local police forces are at the heart of that discussion. When there's the federal throne speech, they talk about CBSA and RCMP, but it's local police that are at our airports, that are at our intermodal hubs, that are actually behind some of the largest investigations in the country. Just this week in Peel Region, the largest drug bust in Peel Region history was led by the Peel Regional Police with assistance of Homeland Security and CBSA, but that's just another illustration of how involved local police is in terms of border security. And so I hope that as resources are invested into border security, that municipalities are part of the conversation on a federal level. And so grateful that we've got a body like OBCM that can echo those concerns and put public safety on the forefront of some of the discussions we're having with our provincial and federal colleagues. But it's an honor today to have our colleagues from OBCM here in Brampton. It's an organization that I value, and welcome to Brampton City Hall.